Neymar to pledge allegiance to PSG. City have found their Aguero replacement. Aouar edges closer to a move. United offer out Beek and a transfer roundup, all coming up on today's OneFootball Daily News. As I'm your host, Angelina Kelly, let's get into it. Our first story is Neymar, and all of those reports about will he make a return to Barcelona, won't he? They'll be coming to an end as he seems set to pen a new deal with Paris Saint-Germain. So on Monday, Fabrizio Romano reported that the player is working out the final details of the deal, which will be keeping him in Paris until 2026. And this ties in with some reports that we heard about last month stating that a deal was in the works that would keep the player at the club until he was 34 years of age. The player has netted 83 goals in 104 appearances for the French champions so far. And whilst he has had a few injuries, it is understandable why they want to hold on to the player, especially with all these rumours about Mbappe potentially departing from the club. And you can understand why Neymar wants to stay at the club as well, especially because apparently this contract has a massive bonus in it if PSG win the Champions League whilst Neymar is at the club, which they could still do this season, although they would have to beat Bayern Munich, who of course they came runners-up to last season. So, like I say, this could mean that the sun will finally be setting on all of those Barcelona rumours, but apparently the player was a lot closer to making a move back to Barcelona back in 2019, according to Eric Abidal. Now, of course, the former Barcelona player and the former director of football at Barcelona has given an interview stating that the club were very, very close to bringing the player back to the club, and he also wanted to bring in Mauricio Pochettino as the manager. He stated that 10 days before the end of the transfer window, he went to Paris to talk with Leonardo, PSG sporting director, of course. He was with his CEO and they were talking about Neymar. According to Abidal, despite the fact that Neymar did have a court case going on with Barcelona, he was still really keen to bring the player in. He was really fighting for it because he felt like they really did need a winger. This was the area of the pitch that they needed a player most, but he was overruled by former President Houssem Aouar, who of course brought in Antoine Griezmann instead. So what do you guys think? Do you think that they should have still tried to have signed Neymar? Do you think that they made the right decision signing Antoine Griezmann instead? Let us know. But like I say, seems like Neymar will be penning a new deal in Paris, and this will mean an end to these Barcelona rumours. Next up, and as Sergio Aguero's future at Manchester City is in major doubt, his contract expires in the summer. It doesn't seem like there are any negotiations for an extension. Finding a successor is top of Manchester City's priority list. Of course, they have been looking at quite a few players, including Borussia Dortmund's Erling Haaland, but so many clubs are interested in this player, and the fact that he's got a market value of reportedly around £100 million, if not more, they are looking at a cheaper option that is a little bit closer to home. And the option that's closer to home, Danny Ings, the 28-year-old, is allegedly seen as a much more attainable prospect for the club, and you can understand why they would be interested. Ings, of course, was at Liverpool. It didn't really work out due to a couple of reasons, including some really bad injuries and having to fight for game time against the likes of Roberto Firmino, Mo Salah, and of course Sadio Mane in that powerful front three for Liverpool. So he had a loan move to Southampton. He then made that permanent in 2019, and since he's been on absolute fire, and this even resulted in a call-up back to the England squad. Last season he finished joint second top scorer with 22 goals for Southampton. Now this season he does only have 9, but last season is just such a great example of what he really is capable of, and also he's in a really good situation regarding his contract at St Mary's for Manchester City, of course, because he enters his final year of his contract and reportedly hasn't taken any offers that Southampton have put on the table about any kind of extensions. This of course would be a great move for Ings, heading to Manchester City, playing for one of the biggest teams in Europe, competing for the top trophies, and I think for Manchester City it would be a good move in that he's a cheaper option. Obviously he's already proven himself in the Premier League, he has so much experience in the Premier League, which means they wouldn't have to worry about a player adapting to life in England, etc. And also, I think that Ings could really prove himself, especially with the quality of players that he would have around him at Manchester City. I think he would get back to scoring quite a lot of goals. Meanwhile, Manchester City are doing everything they can to stay ahead of their rivals by hiring a former rocket scientist, it seems. So Laurie Shaw is a former astrophysicist and has been hired as lead artificial scientist. Now what this means is that he will be in charge of tracking how players play over the season, looking at their careers, etc. They really do seem to be pulling out all of the stops, but of course they have a date with Borussia Dortmund in the quarterfinals of the Champions League that they need to focus on for now, and I think that they have a really good chance of winning the Champions League. In fact, we did a video show here at OneFootball about why they could actually win the trophy. Check it out above my head now. Our next story is Houssem Aouar, and according to Tutto Sport, Juventus are ready to try and sign the player. Now, of course, Aouar has been linked with so many different moves away from Lyon. He was reportedly going to go to Arsenal. That deal seemed to fall through. Then he stated that he was quite happy at the club, but these rumours have reared their head again, and of course, alongside Arsenal, there's the likes of Liverpool and PSG that are interested in the player, but Juventus do believe that they have got the edge on these other clubs, and the edge is Mattia Di Sciglio. The defender is on loan at Lyon and seems keen to extend his stay, and since he's made over 20 appearances for Lyon, it seems like he's quite an important piece of the puzzle for the club. So Juventus believe that they could maybe use the player in some kind of swap deal in order to get Aouar at the club. Now, I could definitely see this move happening, especially with this idea of a swap deal. Now, with Arsenal, I do not think this will happen. I think if it was going to happen, it would have happened last season. It didn't happen, so I think we can rule that one out. I think that Liverpool and Juventus are kind of similar in that they've had rocky seasons so far, but they are both very, very strong teams in Europe, so Aouar could still really be interested. But of course, then there is PSG waiting in the wings, and it could be the idea of playing with the likes of Neymar and Mbappe could just be that appealing thing that means that Aouar does look to PSG. Where he'll end up, we'll have to wait and see, but Aouar does have 2 years remaining on his contract with Lyon. He does seem keen for a move away in the summer, so Juventus are going to have to work fast if they want their player. And our final story, Manchester United, they could be ready to offer Donny van de Beek in a couple of transfer deals as they look to make some moves in the summer without completely breaking the bank. Now, Van de Beek came to the club from Ajax for £40 million last season, and it's safe to say it's been a little bit of a flop. I don't think it's the player's fault entirely. I think he has been a little bit underwhelming, but he is young, and I think the fact that he's only actually had around 2 Premier League starts is just a real kick in the teeth for the player, and I don't think he's been given enough chances. Also pair this with the likes of Bruno Fernandes and Paul Pogba on the pitch. It has been hard to compete, and it seems like Manchester United are weighing up their options in maybe using him as an option in order to get some new players in. According to sources, United do not want to part with the player, but they are open to this idea of trading him if it means that they could get new players. One massive issue is that they would of course have to accept quite a big loss, because I don't think that anybody's going to want to pay around £40 million for a player that unfortunately has not proven themselves in the Premier League. But allegedly, Manchester United have been offering the player to Borussia Dortmund. Of course, Borussia Dortmund is one of the clubs that Manchester United has been linked with, especially with Erling Haaland and Jadon Sancho. Apparently, the club are intrigued by the idea of Donny van de Beek, but could I imagine them actually selling the likes of Haaland or Sancho in order to then get that player at the club? I'm not too sure. However, club officials have not just spoke to Borussia Dortmund, but they've spoke to clubs across Europe to kind of get a feel for whether clubs would be interested in Van de Beek just to sell him, or also to be part of one of these deals potentially. So where he'll be playing his football next season, I'm not too sure. And also, like I said, I do not think that this player means that it's a guarantee that they'll sign the likes of Haaland or Jadon Sancho. So many of the clubs are interested in the same players that Manchester United are interested in. So putting this player in the mix for any kind of deals doesn't necessarily confirm that Manchester United will get all of the players that they want. And last but by no means least, we have our transfer roundup. This is where I take a look at some of the other news and transfers going on in the footballing world. And first up, according to Diario Sport, Erling Haaland has spoken about all of these transfer rumours. He has stated, "I still have a 3-year contract with Dortmund and I am not disturbed by the rumours." Spurs are allegedly looking at Steven Gerrard as a potential replacement for Jose Mourinho. Santos' sporting director has spoken about their teenage star Angelo Gabriel, who reportedly has had some interest from Liverpool. And finally, Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting, he will not be representing Cameroon in their qualification games for the Africa Cup of Nations. This is apparently because the Bayern Munich forward never received an invitation from the Cameroon FC about a call-up, because apparently they sent the email to themselves. Pretty embarrassing. So that is it for today's OneFootball Daily News. Check out all the other content that we have got here, and until next time, I will see you all later.